On this episode, we're going to talk about how to actually close a sale. Maybe you meet someone at an event or you make a connection with them, and how do you get them to want to buy what you have to offer?
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Luis Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all. How would you like to be able to interview world-class experts, sit down and have chats with people like Jack Canfield, Marianne Williamson, Robert Kiyosaki, Tim Ferriss, you name it? Would you love to interview other people that you really admire and consider to be your heroes? Well, we've created a course for you that teaches you how to podcast, how to set it all up, and how to get going so that you can really have a successful show and you can do it properly. Over at thrivinglaunch.com, we have a podcasting course, and it's there for you, waiting for you to snatch it up. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com and let me teach you how to podcast the right way. Today's guest is Oren Klaff of Pitch Anything. He's world-renowned for his ability to close multi-million-dollar sales and do so very quickly. He is the guy that Fortune 500 companies call when they're stuck or when they need to make big mergers. And Oren Klaff joins us today to talk about pitching. All right, Thriving Launchers, let's get Oren on the call. Oren, are you ready to launch?
I am here and ready to launch like a Tesla rocket with a dead battery.
All right. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Well, one of the things that I want to talk about today, and it's something that I know a lot of people, especially coaches that are tuning in, you want to hear about. You meet somebody at a networking event or you meet somebody online and they're a perfect candidate for your services. They basically check off the list and you're having a conversation somehow. And you know that you can help them. So you want to set up that call so you can have that kind of pitch conversation. And a lot of you coaches and consultants are doing these discovery calls. So one of the things I want to talk to you about, Oren, is one, how do you position that conversation? You and I are chatting and I'm like, man, Oren's perfect, man. He's like, there's things he could have a podcast. There's some things on his website he could improve. How do I position that conversation so that I can get you on that discovery call to then close the deal and get you to pull out your credit card?
Yeah, this is such a great topic. So there's three things here. The first one is internal. The internal to you, the salesman, right? Or the business development or the business owner, entrepreneur, whatever it is, right? And the internal things are the hardest for me because I'm not a motivational coach. I don't do much motivation. Just wake up, sack up, let's roll. I don't do a lot of shavasana. And so the internal motivation I feel like comes naturally, but the thing to look internally is triggered by something you said. When you know you can help someone, you want to take shortcuts in the process. Because why go through all of this rigmarole? You have a problem. I have a solution. It doesn't cost that much. I do it better than anyone else. Sign up and let's go, right? If you don't like it, I'll give you your money back. But so that's the narrative that's in your head. But persuasion is a process. In your mind, you've already gone through that whole process and you know your solution fits. And so not adhering to a rigorous process because you know it's a fit, you know they can get value, actually causes you to roll into neediness, right? Because you're skipping all the steps. And when you skip persuasion steps, then the things you're saying come across as needy, and needy kills deals. So you got to get it in your mind. Yes, the client needs you. That's why it's worth investing the time. You're the best in the world that does this. You're going to give them an offer. If they say yes, it's a yes. If they say no, then it's a no. But you have to run process. You can't just go, I know it's a perfect fit. And so that's one.
Well, what's two? That one had so much value packed into it. What's the next thing?
Number two, discovery calls. This is going to be a difficult pill to swallow to the degree that you are giving someone help on a discovery call, starting to show off your talent, your ability, giving them answers, taking them through the solution, partially solving the solution, showing them what they're doing wrong in really meaningful ways, and suggesting valuable fixes, you'll be moving away from the sale. People.
Okay, I want to capture that one more time, Thriving Launchers. If you start jumping into education, fixing, and showing them and educating and teaching them, you lose state. You're completely changing the conversation, and you're actually not being seen as the very thing you think you're being seen as. You think you're being seen as the teacher, the educator, the leader, but something's happening, and what's happening?
You're giving away your services, right? And you're training people to get it for free. And the fundamental mechanics of the social environment that you're working in is this: people want what they can't have, people chase that which moves away from them, people only value that which they pay for. If you're giving it away for free, they won't value it and won't want to pay for it. And when they do come around to paying for it because they find they really need it, they won't want to pay much. When you have professional services, I mean, we've been through this a million times. When you help people, they will appreciate it. They'll understand how good you are, but you'll be moving away from the sale. The way to do it, and it feels uncomfortable, right, is build familiarity with the problem they're having. Show them that you really understand this problem better than anyone else. Resonate with the problem, explain the problem, be familiar with the problem, show that you've dealt the problem, really from 360 degrees, discuss the problem. But when it comes to the solution, don't give it to them, just pitch your services.
I really want to know, sometimes the process of identifying the problem, it can take a while to kind of unpack that. How do you kind of have to ask a lot of questions. People don't always know what the problem is. What are some shortcut ways that you can really identify what the big major problem is for the person?
Sure. So we're doing a lot of material fast, but absolutely, I don't like these spin selling exploratory questions, right? Most of the time, when I look at somebody's exploratory questions, you know the answer to it. Like, so let's take a scenario. So we're talking about the real world, right? Marketing services, this is online. So just give me a real world scenario that we can
definitely hop on a call with a company that clearly can benefit from our services. We've seen what they're doing. This is for a lot of you internet marketers, a lot of you guys that are online. I'm just going to give you a real life experience of something that might happen with me. Is I meet a CEO, I'm familiar with their website, I'm familiar with their services, I've signed up to their email funnel, I've read their magazine, I've watched their videos, I know their stuff, and I know that I can help them. And a tendency that somebody in my position, and guys, this isn't certainly something that I'm doing, but I'm giving you an example of what I think is happening for a lot of people, is I might go, well, you guys are missing out on a lot of things. Let me show you what we can fix. Oren's saying, don't do that. Don't go into the education too much. Find out about their problems. How do you do that? I mean, exploratory, a lot of times we tend to want to go, oh, well, how do you guys get leads? Well, what's the problem with your online website, and how come are your emails converting? I mean, that's kind of the traditional kind of ask a lot of questions to try to lead to the sale.
Yeah. So what I think most of these questions do are you're leading people to the knowledge you already have in some kind of annoying Socratic method, right? So instead of playing that game of sort of asking them questions that you basically know the answers to, right? I think the job of a great professional salesperson or business development or entrepreneur is really to take some risk, right? In terms of projecting what you think is going on. And even if you get it wrong, they will deeply appreciate the context. So, hey, Oren, as I'm looking at your funnel, right, you're sending out like 2 emails, some weeks 0 emails, and other weeks it's not consistent, right? So in my experience, when you have an inconsistent publishing funnel, right, irrespective of how the other stuff is good, you're sort of in 2% conversion rates. Maybe you're doing great at 3.5. My sense is, and I could be wrong, but you ain't doing 5. Now, I'll tell you what the pros are doing, right, is 2 pieces of content a week and then all the social channels, and that will move them up into 3.5%. So when they move to a campaign and a real focused launch, they're getting 6, 7, 8% conversion on the list. Does that sound does that sound correct for you? Am I not seeing something? Or are you really just putting out inconsistent content and getting those kinds 2.5, 3% click-throughs?
I love that. That sounds so much more effective and straightforward because as a business owner, we can all look at what our client's doing and have an idea of what might what the problem is just by looking at what they're doing. So I really like that where you just identify it and you call it out for them.
Yeah, no, thank you. And the other thing, I got a couple things I want to say. I know we're short on time, but just let me know when the clock is the stroke of midnight is about to hit. But there's a couple things here. I don't do this for most people because this is sort of one of my signature education lines, but for you guys, let me walk you through it, right? Luis, I'm looking at your website and I'm reading the copy. Okay, this is not good, right? By not good, what I mean is there's lots of things we can't do. We can't code pizza. We don't code Ajax. We don't run marathons. Like, we only do one thing, which is to write copy. And I'm looking at this and it ain't good. So if you look at it and you go, oh, it's great, we love it, this is the best thing since canned beer, right? We're not going to do anything different. We would never be able to work together. And when I say it's not good, it's not a judgment call on my side, right? We do this for hundreds of companies, right? And so this is not at a minimum standard of quality, right? In fact, I'd like to know who told you to do this this way. Give me their number because I'm going to call them and tell them never to talk to you again. This is not good enough for today's world, okay? And so if that's true, right, just come out and say it. This is not at a minimum standard for success, survival, and quality versus the other people in your industry, in the business, who are just doing this kind of work, right? And so if that's true, you shouldn't go and ask them 15 Socratic method questions that loosely leads them around to understanding their copy isn't the greatest in the world. If it's not good, call it out. It's not good. So are you guys comfortable with that?
You know what's interesting about that is I'm sure that a lot of people who are business owners would feel uncomfortable calling someone out. I know that I've definitely done it, and it's funny, Thrive and Launches, because that's something that I did through a messenger conversation with a guy who runs an Inc. 500 company. He's actually on the Inc. top 10 company list for 2 years, and I told him, I said, your website, it's not good. Like, it's definitely not getting the conversions you want. It's not getting the leads that you want. And I'm not sure who built it, but I can tell you that it's not up to par, and we can do a way better job and really fix a lot of holes. And when I think about that, it's a very bold statement, Oren. Should people feel comfortable being that bold?
If you truly understand the problem. See, the compulsion is for somebody, then they'll say, well, what would you do? Right? And the answer is, we would do it right. So you would get 4% conversion. You'd get, and then a cost to click of, or a cost per order under $20, right? That's what we would do. Let's focus on what I feel like is going on here. And when I click on this page, half the information is below the fold. The color schemes are reverse. I mean, going back to 1950 when Ogilvy published the initial research on what draws people's eyes, reverse copy doesn't work. These font systems are completely out of date. I'm looking at things, they're almost half Comic Sans. All the photos of the staff seem to be taken with a different camera in a different decade. There's just not alignment between the pieces. And so if you go to a direct-to-consumer site, these things are all ironed out. So the problem is it's not that it's not great. It's not at a minimum standard of acceptability, right? And that's what we got to fix first, is just get it up to good enough to compete. Then we can sit down and really say, let's plot a path to great.
Well, I don't think I would ever say a lot of those things that you and that's why I don't specialize in sales. That's why I let Luis do that. But
It,
it,
here's
that
here's the issue.
just that piece about give me the person's number so I can tell them to never speak to you again. That is
He-
really bold.
Well, if you're looking at something and you know fundamentally that it's flawed, right? And you know how to talk through the flaws in a meaningful way without giving the fixes, right? But really identifying the flaws, then you can go down that route. Now, you can, to the degree you're not familiar with exactly what the problem is, you're still hunting around, then you can't be, as bold or aggressive or whatever it is you want to call it. Look, today, especially in these services, buyers have so many options, right? You have to be differentiated. And what is the differentiation? The differentiation is a signal that I need you and your particular point of view. What particular point of view is valuable? That I have seen this problem a million times and I've solved it so many times it's almost boring.
Hey, Oren, I want to say something to you too, to Thrive and Launches as you're tuning in, because this really is reminiscent of one of the sales coaches that I had. And he asked me about three different kinds of salespeople. And one of them was like a fixer, another one was a challenger, and there was another kind of sales personality. And he asked which one gets paid the best, which one is most valued by companies. And hardly anybody guessed the challenger, but in the end, it is actually the challenger, the person that's willing to challenge and come with new ideas and challenge concepts that maybe are kind of broken, but they're just getting by. Like, challenging is really important. I want to ask this last question as we wrap up here, Oren, and it's a really important one because now you guys kind of have a complete experience with this interview. When somebody asks, well, what should I do? Oren, you're right. The Comic Sans is off and our conversions aren't exactly the way that we want them. And yeah, if that you're saying that that's the industry standard or this is what I should be doing and having in my life and it's not happening, I am curious then, what should I do? And I'm asking this, Thriving Launchers, because a lot of you will want to then say, well, do this, do that, and you'll want to go into teaching. What do you do so that you don't go into teaching and maybe you can kind of steer towards the close?
Yeah, so and you don't have to say it this way, but what you fundamentally have to say is, look, we have the fix, okay? And in 3 weeks, within bookends, between $5,000 and $15,000, we can correct this and fix a lot of the problems that we've talked about today. Is it 5? Is it 15? I don't know. I don't know what technology you're based on. Is it Ajax? Is it HTML5? Or what you're running. We sort of need to get into that. But those are the bookends, right? So we have it. We have the fix, and you don't. In order to get it, so you have to give us money, right? That's what we have. So I'll outline the services. But if those numbers sound crazy to you, we really don't have much to talk about because those are the bookends, right? You can dial it up and down a little bit depending on what you need and stay in control. Or you can just fix it yourself. Okay. Look, women have babies in fields all over the world. You don't need a hospital with a medical staff and equipment and drugs and expertise and nurses and doctors and admins and all that kind of stuff to have a baby. But it's a damn good idea. So at this point, we know how to fix this. All we do is fix this kinds of problem, right? We're definitely not the cheapest. We're not McKinsey and charge the most. Very reasonable. But the issue is that I think the main thing is here, we do this better than anyone else for a company of your size. What I think is important is you tell me, what would you like to have happen? If I can make that happen, I will.
That's a fantastic way to lead people to the sale. And notice, Thriving Launchers, there wasn't any teaching. If you've gotten anything from this interview, and hopefully you have, if there's anything that you have gotten other than what I'm about to say, fantastic, keep that, hold it. But the other thing I really want you to get is that teaching is not the way that you hold control, the way that you hold the frame, and the way that you really maintain that sense of value. And you must and have that gatekeeper saying money needs to be exchanged before the teaching happens, before the knowledge begins to transform you. And until then, we're really just kind of dialing in the pain, showing our confidence that we know how to fix it, showing that we're the best at it, and then we can do it, but don't teach. And
Yeah.
really, I hope that that's the biggest walkaway that you've gotten. Now, Oren has a couple books. One of them is Pitch Anything, fantastic book. You guys can grab that. We'll have the link on the website. And as he comes out with other books, we'll keep updating the page. Oren, thank you so much for joining us today. Thriving Lunchers, we'll catch you on the next episode. Keep thriving, y'all.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there.